The United States is standing on the brink of a financial disaster. The unimaginable is becoming a possibility, a U.S. debt default. In an unforeseen turn of events, the U.S. Congress has failed to reach a compromise on raising the debt ceiling. With a deadline looming, the nation's financial stability hangs in the balance. A U.S. debt default would send shockwaves through the global financial system. Interest rates would soar, causing borrowing costs to skyrocket. Global markets are already showing signs of panic. Stocks are plummeting, currencies are in turmoil, and investors are scrambling to find safe havens for their assets. A global recession is on the horizon. The world's economies are so interconnected that no country would be left untouched by the consequences of a U.S. debt default. We are on the brink of a global financial catastrophe. Will the United States default on its debt? Get ready as we delve into the critical situation of the dollar crisis and the impending threat posed by a U.S. debt default. Before we start, don't forget to hit the like button below and subscribe to Tech Revolution. Get ready for a major economic crisis that could hit the United States as early as June 1st if Congress doesn't raise the borrowing limit. This could trigger a global economic catastrophe of unimaginable scale. Democratic leaders are urgently calling for the limit to be increased, while Republicans want certain conditions and spending cuts to be agreed upon first. It's a high-stakes showdown that could determine the fate of the U.S. economy. Just recently, Joe Biden, along with leaders from both the House and Senate representing both parties, met to discuss this impending economic crisis. A crisis that some believe they played a part in creating. Let's uncover the concept of debt ceiling. Have you ever wondered about the limits on the government's ability to borrow money? The debt ceiling, also known as the debt limit, is a significant law that sets a maximum threshold on the total amount of money the government can borrow in order to meet its financial obligations. This limit plays a crucial role in shaping the country's financial situation and has significant impacts. Imagine a high-stakes financial puzzle where the future of federal employees, the military, Social Security, Medicare, interest on the national debt, and tax refunds are on the line. This puzzle revolves around a key decision made by the U.S. Congress. Periodically, the Congress votes to either raise or suspend a limit known as the debt ceiling. This limit determines how much money the government can borrow to meet its obligations. At present, the debt ceiling stands at an astounding $31.4 trillion. However, this limit was surpassed in January, forcing the Treasury Department to employ extraordinary measures to provide temporary relief while they sought a solution. The political showdown has turned the U.S. debt ceiling into a dramatic battleground. While it's typically a routine matter for Congress to raise the limit when needed, this time, finding common ground seems strange. With the clock ticking, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has raised a stern warning. Without increased borrowing, the United States could find itself unable to fulfill its financial obligations as early as June 1st. If a debt default occurs, the government would face serious limitations, unable to fulfill its obligations. This would have far-reaching effects, putting the salaries of federal and military employees, as well as pensions, at risk. The impact would extend to various sectors, resulting in the closure of national parks and other agencies. Companies and charities that rely on government funds would face serious challenges. Even the accuracy of weather forecasts could be affected, as they heavily depend on data provided by the government-funded National Weather Service. Imagine a scenario where the United States default on its debts, a situation with serious consequences that would send shockwaves throughout the financial system. If the government fails to make interest payments on its debt, it would force the country into default. While there was a brief accidental default in 1979 due to a check processing issue, an intentional default would have a frustrating impact. More than $500 billion worth of U.S. debt is traded daily, making the consequences even more severe. According to Moody's Analytics, if a prolonged standoff occurs, the stock market would fall by almost a fifth and the economy would shrink by over 4%. This would lead to the loss of more than 7 million jobs, leaving a lasting impact on individuals and communities. In the long run, if investors perceive US debt as risky, they will demand higher interest rates when lending money to the US government. The ripple effect would extend to the broader economy, making borrowing money for homes, cars, and other expenses more costly for everyone. Discussions arise regarding the possibility of the government prioritizing interest rates to prevent a debt default. However, politically, it is challenging to justify honoring obligations to US debt owners, such as financial institutions, pension funds, and foreign investors, while leaving retirees and others unpaid. The quest for a deal in Congress becomes a thrilling adventure filled with different strategies and ideas. While some suggest a short-term extension to buy more negotiation time, others propose bold and unusual solutions. One wild idea includes generating a massive $1 trillion coin to tackle the debt, while others call for a presidential declaration, making it a constitutional duty to honor government debt. The US debt ceiling has transformed into a captivating game of political chicken, as witnessed in the past. Cast your mind back to 2011 when the nation was on the verge of default. Negotiations played out like an intense race against the clock, with a last-minute compromise finally emerging. This agreement, struck just hours before the deadline, involved major spending cuts of $900 billion over 10 years. Yet, even delays in reaching a resolution carry heavy consequences. The 2011 standoff led to a downgrade in the US credit rating, sending shockwaves through the stock market. The impact was clear, with the public bearing the burden of at least $1.3 billion in higher borrowing costs that year alone. The Biden administration has quickly dismissed the untested idea of paying some bills while ignoring others. They argue that such an approach would be unfair to everyday Americans, leading to widespread economic disruption and pose significant logistical challenges. Instead, if a default were to occur, a more likely scenario, as suggested by the Bipartisan Policy Center, would involve the Treasury opting to delay all payments. They would wait until enough revenue is available to cover all the payments due on any given day. The latest projection from the think tank adds even more urgency to Tuesday's meeting at the White House to address the debt limit. However, the prospects of a significant breakthrough seem slim. As Democrats advocate for a straightforward increase, Republicans demand substantial concessions in exchange for their debt votes. What remains uncertain is whether the Treasury Department can manage to scrape by and fulfill its financial obligations until June 15th. At that point, the influx of quarterly tax receipts would inject much-needed funds, potentially postponing a default until the end of the following month. If the Treasury can hold off a default until the end of June, it would have the ability to utilize around $145 billion in new extraordinary measures. These measures would provide the government with a bit more borrowing capacity, extending it into the summer. As the weeks progress, we will gain more clarity on whether the Treasury can sustain itself until mid-June. This would give Congress and the White House a longer time frame to negotiate a debt limit agreement, as stated by Shoy Akabas, the BPC's Director of Economic Policy. As we approach the edge of this financial challenge, a crucial question emerges. Can the Treasury navigate the difficult path and prevent a default? The upcoming weeks hold the answer to the nation's financial stability. Will they make it to mid-June, tapping into extraordinary measures to extend their borrowing power? Or will the cash crunch become a fatal blow to the US economy? The countdown continues, and the stakes have never been higher. Every day brings us closer to a tipping point at which decisions made in the halls of Congress and the White House will influence the economic landscape for years to come. It is a time of concern and uncertainty as the delicate balance between political negotiations and fiscal responsibility hangs in the balance. How do you believe this debt limit standoff will ultimately unfold? Will compromise prevail, bringing relief and stability? Or will the difference deepen? Or will it take us into unknown territory with serious consequences? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. And that's it for this video. Thanks for watching till the end. Before you go, make sure to like and subscribe and click the notification bell to trigger YouTube's algorithm and see more of our videos on your homepage. Thanks for watching and see you next time for more interesting videos like this.